Welcome to this episode of Off the Track. Today we'll be discussing brand ideas. I've got joining me today Peter.
Hello.
I've got James Gurney from Horizon.
Hey.
I've got Matt.
Hello.
And I've got Ben as well.
How's it do?
So, Matt, this is your first episode of Off the Track. So welcome. Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I was in F1 in schools in 2017. I first started off in subs in schools in 2016. And then in 2017, I was in instant transmission. And we came third place at nationals. And we went on to the Worlds in collaboration with Revolution Racing as Envisity.
Right. So where do we want to start?
What an excellent intro.
Yeah.
Well, Peter wasn't going to do it, so...
You're giving it away now.
Well,
Right.
should we start with defining what brand is? Because,
That's
I
a good
mean,
idea.
let's define it. So, Peter, how would you describe a brand?
So a brand. When people think of a brand, a lot of people think that a brand is a logo, right? They think that's it. But it's really so much more than that. A brand is really the reputation and I guess the emotion that your brand evokes in someone. It's the way that someone perceives your brand. And it's really wide-ranging. So it's not just about the looks or the identity. It's also about your tone of voice. And people don't really consider that.
And it has the reputation is an important component as well. If you look at real world companies, you've got companies like Shell and BP that have somewhat dirty reputations because of all their oil spills and because they're oil companies. And no amount of branding is going to change people's perception of that brand. And then you have,
some will, but it's not going to completely fix the problem.
Exactly, yeah. And then you have other companies, I don't know, like Wendy's with their hysterical clapbacks on Twitter. They're painting themselves as a witty kind of underdog fast food chain, at least in the US. And if you're not aware of those tweets, there'll be links in the show notes. But perception of the brand is more than just the brand. It's the actions of the company, or in this case, the F1 in Schools team, that reflect on it as well.
Yeah. I've always described the branding as sort of the signature of the team or company, where it's very much personalized and varies from person to person.
I like that.
Yeah, but in the context of F1 in schools, branding is more to do with the logo, your social media, your website, and like logo and stuff like that. Like how, more sort of elements about what are judged in the competition, and not so much more of that outdish stuff.
Yeah, practically it is how you present yourselves on paper, and obviously in verbal presentations and interactions with the judges as well, because your peers generally aren't the ones judging you. It's the judges themselves, so it's how you present yourselves to the judges.
And your sponsors as well.
And your sponsors as well, yes, yeah.
Although you should focus a bit on your peers, because if you focus a bit on your peers, you'll get better rankings on like social media, and that can help with your brand as well, partially.
Yeah. It's a balancing act.
So, at the World Finals, the criteria for team identity says that your brand identity, or your team identity rather, should be excellent and highly effective. The team brand should be consistently applied through all project elements. And the thing is with this criteria, it's really vague, like all other criteria.
That doesn't really mean anything.
No, like what's an excellent team identity?
That's subjective.
Yeah. I guess the main takeaway point from that it can really quantitatively assess there is the consistency and application of branding.
And not just the consistency, but also how the consistency is derived, whether there were systems in place for that consistency to be there. So like a brand guide for the team to use, so that they have a system to keep the brand consistent. It hasn't just like aligned magically. That the brand is consistent across the board, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Brand guide is a document that sets out the guidelines, I guess, for how you apply your brand. So how your logo should be positioned, what colors you use in your logo, what fonts you use. I think there's more to it, isn't there? How, like, you can't stretch your logo or distort it. You can't place it on certain backgrounds, etc. There's loads of examples online. If you just type in a company name and then brand guide into Google, you get plenty of examples.
I'll link a couple in the show notes for everyone.
Yeah. But they should just be like a one-stop shop for everything you need when you're doing your branding, so you don't have to go looking around different places for different things.
And make sure all of your team members have access to the brand guide, as well as all of the resources they need, like all of the logos and how they're properly, locked up. So how the text, if you have text in your logo, and the icon.
Yeah, as well as that, just everyone having sort of an understanding of like the team's brand itself and how they can, like, having the right tools, like the programs to edit and however you publish your stuff, so that they have the ability to put in like high quality images and stuff like that, and consistently have other people in your team apply the brand.
And give it to the sponsors as well, because and anyone else who's going to use your logo.
Yeah, if someone's going to use your logo, it's better for you to give it to them than for them to try and rip it off your website from the like 300 by 100 PNG that you have for your logo on your website. Like a vector image is by far a much better file to give to a sponsor than them ripping it from your website. And the same with your teammates, get them to use vectors wherever possible, and wherever appropriate, and try and instill some knowledge into them about what images should be used where and what image types should be used where. For example, in the portfolio, there's basically no excuse to just not use a vector image for the logo.
A vector image is an image that will scale up or become small without losing any resolution.
Yeah, it's made, it's constructed using mathematical formulas instead of traditional pixels. So they can just increase and decrease the size, and because it's a formula, it'll just stretch and compress, and it won't pixelate because there are no pixels.
And we've talked a bit about, lossy and lossless images in our car rendering episode. So if you go check that out.
Yes, rendering rhetoric.
And you can use like Adobe Illustrator or Inkscape to create those images. I think you might be able to do it in Photoshop as well, but it's not as good.
I think Photoshop's a little rough.
It's not. If you have access to Photoshop, you likely have access to Illustrator, and I'd recommend just Illustrator. Photoshop is not a great vector image.
Otherwise, Inkscape, which is free.
Yes.
And for anyone learning Illustrator, the controls transfer pretty much perfectly over from Photoshop. Like all the shortcuts and everything is pretty common sense from Photoshop.
Yeah, it's more closely related to InDesign Illustrator. So if you have experience with InDesign as well, they work really well together as well.
I'm going to put something in the resources called the Bezier game, and it's basically if you're familiar with the pen tool, this is like a sort of online game, if you will. It shows you how to use the pen tool, which I found really handy for learning how to use the pen tool. So go check that out if you would like to find out more about the pen tool and how to use it.
So a brand isn't just like the logo you have, but it's also how it's presented to the individual, and so that includes obviously your logo, but also your brand colors. Okay, and so it's really important that you provide your teammates in that brand guide with the RGB or the CMYK or whatever color mode you're using. Provide them with those details and have them memorize it. Like still tell you the Precision Racing RGB code for our orange. So they should be able to all at least be able to put in your RGB code so that you have the right colors, and don't have them adjust them because they don't look right on their screen, because unless you're all using the same calibrated screens, it will look slightly different. But if it's all using the same RGB code, when it's printed, it should look the same, if that makes sense. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
You should also have a Pantone color as well for printing, isn't it?
I mean, it's a bit excessive for F1 in schools, but
we had a Pantone color for Worlds.
You did?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Pantone's not really. It's only for like soup. Pantone's kind of just a color stand. Like it doesn't really matter. Like anything printing is just they're gonna be.
But they don't really convert well from RGB. They're all slightly different. So
CMYK converts better because it's because that's what printers use most of the time. In this.
Pantone is good for stuff like your pit display.
Yeah, that's what we had it for.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of companies that will usually print merchandise using Pantone colors as well.
That's a good tip there. Pantone is if you're struggling to find a nice color, or you've got a color in mind and you want a nice shade, then pulling up a Pantone swatch and having a look and picking out a Pantone color will be a real easy way to pick a nice shade. It's like going to Bunnings or your local hardware store and picking out like paint samples, like the little paper things, putting on your wall, except for your brand, and so that's a really nice way to pick a nice shade, and it's easy for your team to communicate which one they like, because they've all got just a number associated with them. Another thing that affects how your brand is perceived is your fonts. Appropriate fonts are key. I'm not a big fan of serif fonts. You can use them if you want, but the way modern styles are moving, it's far more towards sans serif fonts like Arial, Avenir, Helvetica, that's a big one. Roboto, which is the Google custom font for Android, which is, I believe, freely available.
Yeah. Google Fonts has heaps of freely available fonts. That's the other thing about Helvetica is you're probably not going to get in trouble for it. You're really not going to get in trouble for it, but you do technically need a license for it.
Yeah. Same with Avenir as well.
The Google fonts are all free, though. You don't need a license for them at all.
Yeah, but I'd implore you to look into fonts and look at font families, because if you can find a family like Arial or like Avenir that have different weights to them, different styles, and all that kind of stuff, then it's really easy to get headings and different weights of font, like subheadings and that are the same font and look reasonably different, but they're the same style, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else?
Yeah, another thing you could do with the fonts is like what we did for Horizon is like sort of making your own. So like what you can do, for example, is in Illustrator, you can just like put all the fonts in yourself and then change them to curves, and you can edit them however you want. So like, for example, that with us, that was putting some fillets on like different radiuses, like radius fillets on some of the like edges of the like letters to sort of give it an effect that matched our logo. And then like there's different software. There's a couple of different plugins that we can link in the resources for the podcast that you can buy. They're like $5 for a lifetime license, and you convert those curves back into a font that you can export. So just stuff like that can like sort of add your own personality to the font as well, for like headings or other stuff like that.
There's a really good video from the future. I don't know how you say it, but there's a good video from them about typography and rules about typography and how you can pair different fonts and how to pair different font weightings. That's really crucial.
Yeah.
We're getting into the more technical stuff here with your brand. And so typography, I cannot implore you enough to really look into the typography side of things, especially if you're overseeing the layout and the design of the portfolio, and your website and that kind of stuff. Or anyone who's going to be creating marketing materials should have at least a basic understanding of the fonts and what fonts you're using and how they interact and what they should use for what. And the person with the most knowledge about fonts should be making the decisions about the fonts, because I know I made all the decisions about the fonts for Precision Racing, and the rest of the team just went along with them because, to be honest, they don't like fonts as much as I do, and apparently getting excited about fonts is a bit of a weird thing to do. I don't know about you guys.
Is this a bit of a confession here, Michael?
Well, I mean, fonts, keyboards, spreadsheets, apparently those three things are weird to get excited about, but I get very excited about them.
You get excited about spreadsheets?
Don't start. Don't get me started.
I mean, I can get excited over a decent flowchart. I mean, when you've got a nice-looking flowchart, it really does encapsulate you.
Yeah, flowcharts as well. Not to the degree that I do spreadsheets. Like, spreadsheets are just...
I don't like spreadsheets.
How dare you?
I guess, Michael, because you're in a managerial position.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with a lot of numbers, crunching a lot of numbers.
I'm not an accountant, but yeah, I do a lot of... and just visually representing data, plans and stuff like that in spreadsheets.
Charts and stuff.
Yeah, graphs and charts, but not just that, but also visually representing like loss on certain products and stuff like that. Spreadsheets are really good for. But this is kind of getting a bit off topic.
Off the topic. Here we go.
Brands, yeah. So yeah, on the topic of future, which is what we're going to call it future because I think that's
future. Yeah,
future. I think that's how it's pronounced. There's a series by them that Peter you've watched about branding. Obviously, got the typography walls one that you brought up earlier, but they've also got branding. They'll all be linked in the show notes. Okay, but do you want to just run us through that one, Peter?
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched all of it, but it gives you a good sort of guide on how to start building a brand, and the different processes to think of. Brainstorming something people will or teams will commonly do is brainstorm their team's values. This is like really early on in the branding process when you're creating your brand, deciding on your team name and etc. I think it's a good series just to get into the mindset of building a brand. Just on typography, in your brand guide, that's where you typically specify what font weights you'd use for your headings, what font weight you'd use for your body text, and what size of fonts you'd use. Also keep in mind when you build a website, if you're using a tool such as Wix, I don't know, maybe not Wix, but some website builders, they don't really allow you to use custom fonts, and you're either locked into Google Fonts or their own fonts. So check with your website builder if you're building using a website builder.
Most WordPress themes will force you to use Google Fonts.
Yeah.
That's pretty much why you should just use a font that's on Google Fonts. They're all free. They're all pretty good, and they'll pretty much work anywhere.
Yeah, but like places like Wix or anything, like a lot of teams use that. Like that, they allow you to upload your own fonts, so it's not really a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, you're telling me this now?
You can probably
that's unfortunate.
Hey. What?
You can probably do it in WordPress as well. It's just a bit more complicated. They just don't provide you an easy option to do it.
Google Fonts would work at most places, unless I don't know you're blocking Google DNS or something like that. Hey, man.
Well, then that's
blocking.
If someone
Google
blocking
Fonts.
DNS, they'd probably have them on their computer anyway.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is with websites, you can just upload the fonts there, and then no one can really block them. That's also getting a bit off topic. So,
and also if you're building your own website, then of course you can use any font. you want.
Yeah.
As long as you have a license for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the Google fonts are open source, so you don't have to worry about the license there. Some other ones you might have to pay a license to use them, although you'd probably be fine anyway, but still.
But Off the Track does not condone
No.
the illegitimate use of fonts. If you do not have a license, get a license for it, okay? So we also have here Adobe Spark. Peter, did you add this?
I did.
You did, Ben.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Canva.
Yeah.
Canva's good.
They're two pretty good sort of graphic design tools. If you're not familiar with using Illustrator or Photoshop, they're pretty good tools for creating social media posts and graphics for social media posts. I haven't used them in a while, but when I did use them a few years ago, they're pretty good.
Yeah, Canva's in the browser, and it's pretty easy to use. So it's good for putting up a quick post, and it's also good if you're not a graphic designer but you want to do something on the social media without getting that person involved. Like maybe they're busy.
Yeah.
Then just you do something in Canva.
But if you use Canva, make sure it's still consistent with your brand.
Yeah. Well, that's what the brand guide's for.
Yeah, if graphic designers done the job properly, look at the brand guide. Okay. And that'll tell you all you need to know about the brand. And if you do have questions, don't just make it up. Ask the graphic designer, because consistency is key. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you're not consistent with your brand, it starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
People won't recognize that it's your team.
Yeah, and it's very easy to see when your branding doesn't line up. Like it sticks out bad.
Like if you're using, 5 different fonts in a document, then that's not really great.
Yeah. Or if you put the wrong font on your booth display for the World Finals because you forgot what font you were using and forgot what team you were a part of, that gets really awkward very fast if you realize months later.
Is that a personal anecdote or just like a general statement?
Make of it as you will.
And if you're not sure of what font you're using, send an image to contact@offthetrack.net and I will try my best to figure it out, because I always like challenge.
There are.
Yeah, but I'd like the challenge, and then I'll fall back on the tools to make it look like I'm good at this. Okay, we don't need to tell them that part. Contact details in the description. Okay, guys. So we also have here the 9 Ps for an effective brand by Craig Hingston. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ben, this was your little addition. You want to
mess up with the bullet point?
Yeah.
What are your 9 Ps, Ben?
Yeah.
My 9 Ps. Well, the 9 Ps of an effective brand is just I believe it's a free online document. At least I'm aware it's free. Otherwise, you pirate it, Peter.
The Off the Track does not condone piracy in any form.
No, I obtained it from his website anyway. Go on.
Okay. Well, it's a free document online and basically goes through some really effective and helpful tips, as well as going through the creation of a branding and the attitude towards it. And it's a good little read. Well, not little. There's a decent amount of writing.
42 pages.
40.
42 pages.
I've got the PDF up. It says 40.
This is 42 on mine, buddy.
Hang on. Am I missing 2 pages of the 9 Ps of effective branding?
I think so.
Peter, you only gave me the 8 Ps of effective branding.
It's 42. The one you sent Ben is 42 pages.
And when did I send it?
Why do I only have 40? Hang on.
Peter, no, Ben, you sent.
Are you looking at the page numbers?
This morning is 42
page
pages.
numbers.
Yeah, no, you need to look at the total pages in your PDF.
What? No, I am.
Anyway.
It says 40.
Oh,
Anyway, we're a bit off the topic, right?
It's staying in. That's staying in.
100%.
Okay. So there is either 40 or 42 pages of 9 Ps of effective branding, and it's a it's a good little read for graphics designers or people just interested in branding as well. So,
Marketing managers as well.
yep, they're important too.
At least that's what we like to tell them as graphic designers.
Oh.
Oh,
Wow, okay.
who is the marketing manager for your team?
For my team,
Yeah.
well, it was me.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a shared role between Lauren and I. Like, I did the brand, and Lauren did the portfolio and that. So, like,
So Lauren was the important one.
and she just put together the portfolio. I don't want to minimize that contribution, but I did the brand. Like, we're both important to that process, but I designed the logo and made most of the decisions about the brand. And she put together a portfolio in line with what I was telling her, and sometimes she told me to piss off. But generally we just shared the role. Marketing manager isn't a required role; it can be shared. It just needs to the buck needs to stop with someone when it comes to brand, and it's usually better if that's one person rather than the whole team, because design by committee is not one of the most effective design strategies.
Well, you'll have to do that though, at the start, though. When you're building a brand, you'll have to consult with your team.
Yeah, the team should have input, but it should be one person's final decision.
Yeah, but I'm not saying someone just gets a Stalinistic control over the entire brand. No, but yeah, the team needs input, but you don't need design by committee either. There's an in between, and you guys need to find what works best for your team.
I was about to say, speaking of, question for everyone here. How did you guys all come up with your own individual brand for your team?
Should we go chronologically, Michael?
I don't want to start, so let's not. Let's do it reverse chronologically.
Wait, Michael, you're second on the
I
block.
don't want to start either. Ben, you go.
I
Your
go?
question.
It's a reverse chronological.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I suppose for Ascension, the first thing we got was the name Ascension, and from there we broke down what the name meant and what we were all looking for together as a team. And as soon as we had all decided that, I took those ideas and crafted some prototype logos. And I guess in terms of colors, my general idea for colors is just trying to think of what the word reminds me of, if that makes sense. Like, Ascension felt very sky-based to me, so therefore we went with the sky blue.
Oh.
That was my little branding thing.
Well, for Envisity, our name came from a combination of the two words envision and creativity. So, because our slogan, I guess, was envision the future, create the future, be the future. And our logo was an E, but it was also subtly a racetrack, like a starting line of a racetrack.
Oh.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
You never know.
All right. So yeah, pretty much like with the branding for like Aurora and Horizon, it started with Aurora, which was a collaboration between Germany and Australia. So we sort of like originally when we were sort of brainstorming the names, we just came up with a really big list of different ideas, and we like sort of came to Aurora, and Aurora is like it's the effect that you see like when people think of the northern or southern lights, like over. It's caused with something to do with the magnetic field of the Earth when there's like radiation coming into it, and so like the green northern lights sort of thing. So, and the idea of that was that it can be seen like over the north of the world, like in the North Pole, and it can be seen in the southern hemisphere as well. So like the idea was like connecting both hemispheres, kind of thing, like Germany and Australia. So yeah, sort of from there, like we looked at, like we sort of wanted to have a simple logo, and the idea was like having the A as the element that was like a bridge and kind of like a rainbow kind of thing, but like symbolizing like an aurora kind of thing. And yeah, it's like it's sort of like the idea you have there, and then there was just like different iterations of it, simplifying it down. And then with Horizon, it was a bit different because we had different people do the graphic design. It was originally someone else, and then I did it when we changed the logo, and that was sort of incorporating the elements of the previous logo, and simplifying it into more of a like just a modern look logo. But the sort of name Horizon came when we were brainstorming again, and we used the same document that we created for Aurora with all the names. And yeah, we just looked back at what there was, and we liked the idea of Horizon because the name idea was sort of like expanding our horizons. Like all of the people in our team had already been most of them had been in an F1 schools team before, and like we'd like gone to competitions. So the idea was like with Horizon, we'd be going beyond that kind of thing. So like expanding our horizon. And then the logo that we redesigned for that was sort of incorporating the elements of the previous logo, the colors, and the idea of like red, orange, the colors of sunset, like which you associate with the horizon, and sunset, sunrise, and yeah, then sort of just came about it. Like we had some simplified, like a slanted H, which kind of yeah, had like the dash through, like looks fast, looks like a racing team kind of effect. The curves, yeah, subtle fillets on the curves. Then we incorporated that with the custom font for headers and stuff like that, where we could match those elements of the curved corners on like letters and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how it came apart.
That's pretty clever. I never thought about that Aurora, uniting the two hemispheres. That's clever.
Yeah, that was the idea we had. There's some of the prototype logos that the Germans created, I think, were a bit more like Aurora-y kind of thing. Like they showed more of the actual Aurora.
Okay.
Peter, it's your turn. Or it's our turn, because
our turn. Yes, we had
the
relationship where we were both part of the creation process for Infinitude.
Yes.
I can't remember that much of it. It was 4 years ago. What I do remember is that we were together in Adelaide.
Do you want me to tell the story? Because I remember it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Peter, Joel, and Will came over to Adelaide for a first meeting. So the whole team, Infinitude and Sutbeer, was there, I think.
We were a collaboration team between two cities, so that's crucial.
Two very close together cities in Australia as well. So Peter came over with his side of the team, and we sat down and started banging out ideas for Infinitude logos. What?
You just said that Peter came over and we started banging it out.
Careful, it's Patreon exclusive content.
Anyway, okay. I'm gonna edit that out, and I'm gonna say something different. So yeah, Peter and the rest of the team came over to Adelaide, and we started brainstorming ideas for different looks of the logo. We started with a grey background and some white font with some really weird ideas to do with the U and the V. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember now. Wow, yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Whose ideas they were, I totally don't remember because we
tried to include the two teams that were coming together, the NF and the TV.
Yeah, negative filter and TV. Yeah.
It didn't work. We tried to make the V look like a U, and horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work well. So then Peter found a nice infinity symbol on the web that he liked the look of, and so he sent that to me, and I created something that looked similar. It wasn't the same. Okay, didn't infringe on anyone's copyright, but we that then became the icon, and then we decided on a white and purple color scheme, and so Peter started just doing the lockups for that in Illustrator once I gave him the files and that kind of stuff, and so that's how the Infinitude brand came to be. Peter, do you have anything to add? Do you remember any more?
Not really. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. How we landed on the name, we just brainstormed on the whiteboards.
There were so many names. I don't remember any of them, but
I don't know how we settled on Infinitude.
I think negative velocity was joked about quite a few times.
Oh yeah,
and terminal filter.
No.
No.
I can't remember. Someone mentioned to someone that orange and green were like the complementary or the triad colours that formed purple or something on the colour wheel, which I found that was not planned, but I feel that's a nice sort of linking way between the two collaboration teams.
I feel like that may have been how we got to purple, actually.
Was it?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I think that is how we got to purple. And then I wanted to try grey with drop shadows because I thought that might be a nice material design type of thing.
But then was the trend at the time.
That was material design. Oh, it still is to a certain extent today.
Yeah.
We're moving a bit away from it, but yeah. Certainly
Purple's
materials
good.
is more soft now. The material, but yeah, it's that's how we got the purple, and I think we just chose white as a base color because it's really easy to match white with anything.
Yeah. I remember now. I set up a website so we could vote on all of the different logo concepts.
Mm.
Yeah, that was what you're talking about with all the greys and whites and different purples. Yeah. So it was a really collaborative.
Okay, so editing Michael just stepping in here. Our recording software cut out halfway through my precision racing explanation, so I'm just going to add one in post here, which is why you won't hear any reactions from the rest of the cast. But basically what we did for the precision racing logo is we started with a sniper scope for precision racing because, snipers have to be precise. And we had a blue and white color scheme to begin with, because also the idea of blueprints that are also very precise. But then we settled on an orange and white theme because we thought that would be a really nice color scheme. We thought it fitted well with our team brand. And eventually I went for a more abstract kind of scope type design that incorporated circles that were broken up, and it was kind of like just a nice blend of F1 in School's wheels, like from the cars, and the somewhat violent undertones of the sniper scope, which is why we didn't have that to begin with. And then we obviously just had the precision racing in the middle, and it was a really nice icon that you could put anywhere. You could put page numbers in the circles, and it was a really very identifiable symbol, like the Horizon H, the Infinitude, infinity symbol, or anything like that.
Does anyone have any thoughts about my precision design or any of the other design processes that people have talked about earlier?
I just never realized how much, like, all of the brands, how much meaning they had behind them.
Yeah.
Like, with stuff and Horizon.
Yeah.
And...
Infinitude is one of the more I don't want to say meaningless, but it's certainly not as much structure behind the name as there was, or the brand rather, than there was with at least definitely Aurora and
I think what we said with the logo was because it's the infinity. If you look at our logo, the infinity symbol is two parts.
That's true.
Yeah,
but
that
it
is
comes
true.
together as one, as an infinity loop.
That's why you
Is
liked
by
that.
design?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the reasoning behind it.
I think that was. No, that definitely is.
It
now,
is.
yeah.
It is now. It is now. But
Well, yeah,
I think
we're
that was
going
the
to
reasoning at the
retcon that
time.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I seem to remember that's why you liked that infinity
Yeah,
symbol to
yeah.
begin with.
Yeah.
And that's why you're like, Michael, can you make this in Illustrator, but not this because it's a stock photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And trust me, for those listening, it is very different to the stock photo. You put the two side by side, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that's definitely different.
It's your interpretation of
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
It seems like you guys defending the Infinitude logo.
No one said anything bad about it except for you guys.
Well,
You guys
what
are
do
the
they
only-
say? Artists are most critical of their own work or some crap like that. I don't know. I'm
It sounds
certainly very
J.K.
critical.
Rowling trying to correct everything in Harry Potter on Twitter.
Don't start. Don't start.
You have Twitter?
I do have Twitter.
You don't need
oh,
Twitter
you,
to hear
right.
about J.K. Rowling retconning Harry Potter, you know?
Oh, I see.
By the way, guys, Infinitude's color scheme was actually orange the entire time. Orange and white the entire time. You just weren't seeing it right, you know?
Oh yeah, and I'm colorblind. A colorblind graphic designer, so
Yeah.
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 On that note, you can follow us on Twitter.
On that terrible disappointment.
Wait, do I follow us on Twitter? Yeah, I do. Okay.
Surely. Yeah, no, you do, yeah.
I had to double
Looking
check.
at it. Oh, follow us.
Everyone should follow the Off the Track Twitter account, where we post the latest F1 in Schools news.
Do we? Do we post
Yeah,
on
we
that
do.
account?
We do.
We post
Okay.
any leaks, most of which come from Peter looking at the CCTV footage.
Okay, thanks for listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, you can rate the show on Apple Podcasts and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Off the Track Podcasts, and you can visit us at offthetrack.net. I want to add the next episode, or in the future, a future episode will include an interview with Evolve UK, the 2019 World Champions. If you have any questions for them, please send them through to us and we will posit them to them.
Within reason. Make sure they're
Of course.
appropriate.
Yeah.